Boston College certainly lost a lot of talent in the transfer portal, but they've brought a lot back, and I think they're deeper than they were last year.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right spot. Locked On is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We have a packed episode today. We're going to talk about basketball, beating Syracuse and avoiding losing the ACC schedule. A hat tip to them, and I'll explain why. Jeff Hafley, former Boston College head coach, goes from on the outs to NFL head coach in 2 years. We'll talk about his meteoric rise again and coming back, and will it work for the NFL? We'll talk about that. And then with the portal closed and BC starting classes, let's dive into the roster, comparing last year versus this year. Now, to my Everydayers Club, I asked a question to them if they had any questions for the show. And I got to give credit to Mark and a few other Everydayers who wanted to know, how does this year's group compare to the team from last year? What positions did they get better at? Where are their concerns other than quarterback, which I've said a bunch of times here? So I wanted to dive into this. Now, you look at the roster, and the big piece that sticks out to me is there's a few guys that are leaving that were good. Like your better players left. Turbo Richard, Eric Dougherty, Omar Thornton, and Reed Harris would be the big ones I would point to. That being said, you were a 2-10 team. And the big reason to me that you were a 2-10 team was because you had zero depth. You had no depth. The guys that you had good players, a few good players, and then nothing behind them. BC, when they went out, it looks to me that they really prioritized building that depth back by bringing in a ton of guys. All of them, not all of them, Colorado was in a wide receiver from UNC. The rest of them are older players. They've started at various levels. They have multiple snaps. That piece is super important for BC because they needed that depth. So when you're asking me, like, are they better? There's the biggest concern for me is the explosive plays on offense. You lost your three big guys when it comes to explosive plays. Lewis on from graduation, Reed Harris, transfer portals, Turbo Richards, transfer portal. How do you replace them? I thought they did a really nice job with bringing in guys that have the potential to be that next guy. Whether it's Landon Wright, who is watch his tape. This is the wide receiver from Washington State, like incredible speed. And yes, I don't think Bill's done a nice job with guys that are speedy on this roster, but you add him and he's good. And Javaris Green also has the potential. And I love Reed Swanson. I think honestly, if you look at how you redid the depth at wide receiver, I like it better than last year. Reed Harris was great for a couple big plays every game. He had his moments too. Is he an elite player that you want to empty the coffers to go out and keep? I'm not sure about that. But you brought in 3 wide receivers and then Jackson Wynn, who didn't really do all that much for Florida, but I know the staff really feel highly about him. You did that by removing Cedric Lott, who did nothing. Samaj Fleming, who did nothing. And then obviously Reed Harris and Ishmael Samore, who also was not really a factor. I think right there, you rebuilt your depth in hopefully the guys that you have, whether it's VJ Wilkins or Jaden Skeet, are going to get better there, right? There's a win right there. Tight end. You didn't really lose any. You lost Stevie Amar, who could turn into something. I'm not gonna doubt that, right? You're bringing in Crossman, the tight end from Florida, who really hasn't done all that much, kind of a wash, really. Because I think Amar might have a higher, I think he probably will have a higher ceiling. Crossman, we haven't seen a whole lot of. Quarterbacks, I'm not going to dive into this again. Well, I'll dive into it again. Lost Dylan Larnigan, who had his ups and downs. You're bringing in, and I've said this before, I have my concerns about this, but the staff really, I think, are really into this with Mason McKenzie, a D2 quarterback who can run the football. I'm concerned about that. That's my biggest concern of anything that comes out of all this. I'll say it over and over again. This is my prove it moment where you brought in a quarterback that does something you didn't do last year from a D2 school, and you keep bringing up Trinidad Chambliss, which I get, but I think he's more of a unicorn than anything. They're going to have to prove it there. That's my piece with the quarterbacks. I'm worried about that. I will be honest. I will be worried about that. Running backs. You lost Turbo Richard, who, watch, will probably be super explosive for Indiana next year. Any good running back is going to be really good in that offense. They're bringing in 2 running backs, though. I do like what they did here. I think that they did the right thing. Evan Dickens, this running back from Liberty, ran for 1,400 yards and 16 touchdowns. Yeah, it's from Liberty, but still, you put up numbers like that and you watch his film, he has it. You replace Alex Broom, who did nothing because he was just not the right fit, with Nolan Ray, who ran for 500 yards, 400 yards, and 700 over the last 2 years. Yeah, that's better. That's better. And I know Turbo's great, but again, context here. You're bringing in 2 running backs who can do good things. And yes, Dickens is explosive. Watch his film. Watch what he does. He's explosive, just like Turbo. You got 2 of them. That is a step in the right direction there. Now, the offensive line. You lost Doherty in the portal. So if you're talking about coming in versus going out, Doherty is a big loss. This is a guy that started this year, played a lot last year. He's been around for a long time, older body, and one of the best guards, I think, rated by Pro Football Focus. So losing him, yeah, that stinks. But you had to replace a ton on that offensive line. You lost Jude Bowery, and Logan Taylor to graduation, and Kevin Klein, excuse me. Into the portal. So that's 4 guys that you had to replace on your starting line. They bring in Chris Phillips from Michigan State, who is a starting guard who got hurt. So I think that's a solid get for them. They bring in Reggie Jackson, a starter for Jacksonville State, multi-year starter. You bring in Trayvon Henderson, a starting guard or tackle. I forget exactly which one he'll play, but he started multiple times. You brought in Vigor Jean Jamo. I forget what his nickname is, Juno or something like that. Jumo for Tennessee State. He was one of the best FCS offensive tackles last year. So you brought in a number of other guys. And then Jenny Norwood from UNC, who's going to be one of your younger offensive linemen. You add those in to, Pape Sai and, Robert Smith and Judah Pruitt. I think you're in better shape. I do think you're in better shape there. From the guys leaving that left from the portal, your portal losses. Losing Jude Bowery and Logan Taylor is not easy, but they're not part of the portal loss. That's a different discussion there. Okay. So that's kind of where the offense stands. So offensively, I think they are fine. I think they're going to be fine other than that quarterback thing, which still bothers me. The most improved room on the offense, honestly, I would from the portal out, it's tough to say, but depth-wise, I would say wide receiver. I like what they did with wide receiver. Losing Reed Harris is going to be tough, but you brought in a bunch of guys that you can play, and many of them should be getting snaps right away. So that's my thoughts on the offense. In a moment, I'm going to get into the defensive side of the ball. We'll get into that and talk about what positions got better on a group that really struggled last year. I'll tell you a little bit more of my thoughts on that in just a moment. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your home in work setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. It honestly made getting back into the routine this new year feel a lot more manageable because shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly how it is expected. Get organized, refresh, and back on track this year for far less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, folks, we're back again, and I want to tell you about our Everydayers Club. If you have not joined, it is the place to be right now if you're a Locked On Boston College diehard, and I know many of you are. On our basic tier, you get into our Discord, and if you don't know what Discord is, it's basically like your group chat that you have with your buddies. You want a lot of folks talking BC football? Come on over. We have a Locked On BC chat that you can join, okay? There's additionally, you get ad-free. You don't have to listen to ads. Get to listen to other stuff on top of all my great content. If you want to take it to the next level, though, this is where I think you guys should do it. Become part of our all access tier where I give you additional bonus content you're not going to get anywhere else. You get to text with me. Some of you have been signing up. I saw that. You can ask me questions, talk about it, and you get discounts on our merch, all sorts of great stuff, and a daily newsletter with all your Boston College news on it. How can you beat that? Sign up details are in the show notes right there. Hopefully you will become part of our Everydayer Club because I want to see you there. Now, going on to the defensive side of the ball. Now, the defense, the linebackers, it's hard to say that losing Bam Crouch is a big deal. I guess if you expected him to play, but watching last year and what happened with him, it seemed pretty clear to me by the end of the year when he played that Notre Dame game and then disappeared again, that there was probably a small chance he was coming back. Now that we can kind of sit back and see. So you lost him. Bryce Steele entered the portal. Anything he gave you was a plus given all the health things that were going on in his life. It's a blessing that he's back where he's at. Jalen Blackwell, haven't seen him in 3 years. He's been hurt. He got hurt again this year. I feel so bad for this kid. Just never gets on the field. You lose all these guys. You bring in 3 capable linebackers. Bodie Cahoon from Notre Dame is the least established of all these linebackers, but you talk to any Notre Dame writer, any beat that has been there, and I've talked to quite a few, they're like, this guy has a high motor. He's super athletic. He's just buried on a depth chart filled with future NFLers. That's exactly what BC should be getting. This is a guy that can play. Get him that opportunity. He's going to be out there. You just brought in Justin Medlock. Justin Medlock from Utah over to SU, played a bunch this past year, played 250 snaps at linebacker, 6'1", again, played a bunch. He's again, an older body. His Pro Football Focus grade is fine. It's a good get right there. And Anthony Polano from Washington State, from Wazoo. Second Wazoo player, which is crazy. It's not a school you think BC would get a whole bunch of transfers from. You bring him in, he's played a whole bunch too. So is this better than last year? Yes, it's better than last year. You lose Bam Crouch, who, yes, you probably would love to have Bam Crouch back, but I could see any of these 3 doing what he could do or doing a solid job. And they're going to be better than the guys you lost. That's just happening, right? So linebacker, and honestly, if you're going to ask me what the unit is that got the most improved, it's line on any position side of the ball. It's linebacker. Linebacker got exponentially better. So that was my thoughts on that. Defensive edge rushers. You lose Edward Kalengi, pretty sizable loss. Jaden Fry, and you lost, I think there was one more player. I'm totally blanking on who it is. And maybe Edward Kalengi and Fry. And you brought in Demetrius Ballard and Chris Jones from Georgia. Now he's listed as an edge. I mean, a linebacker, but he's going to play edge. Did you get better there? Yes. I think so because Kalengi, yes, he's a guy that's played a whole bunch, but you kind of know what you got with him, which wasn't a whole lot in terms of pass rush. Like he just could not win one-on-one battles. Like when you think of Edward Kalengi, did you think of him as a pass rushing demon? I didn't see it. Like he was fine at times, but like you need a pass rush. That's what you bring these two Ballard and Jones in for. So yeah, you got better there. And Jaden Fry didn't mean anything, so that doesn't matter. You got better at edge. Did you get as good as you needed to be, though? We're going to see how high the ceiling is for Chris Jones, because Chris Jones is a 4-star blue chip recruit. He's waiting to get to that next level. If he gets there, then maybe he is. Maybe he is the guy that you need, right? Like that could be it. Is he established though? No. And I think a lot of folks were hoping to get a guy that had like, even if it was at a 5 school, like 7 or 8 sacks, and bring him in and hopefully he can kind of turn it up. Didn't really get that. Defensive tackle was quiet as well. You brought in 2 guys, KJ Sampson from Florida State and Christian Hudson from Colorado. Hudson, again, like he replaces Sterling Sanders to me. And I think he's an upgrade from Sterling Sanders. To be frank, you look at the office, it's not even close. You bring him in to basically be your, you look at the depth chart. He could play. He could earn his way onto the field. And the way he looks definitely could be up there sooner rather than later. But is he like ready now? Who knows? But KJ Sampson's going to have to play. And I think this is the position where I would put a TBD next to, because you lost Owen Stodmeyer, a transfer who, a player who was projected to probably a starter for you. You need to probably get one more player. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. Do they use that to get a true freshman? Because they can still get late freshmen for 26. Or do they go for a transfer and go for and classes have started, so they're gonna have to wait for that anyways. That remains to be seen. But I think it's TBD for this one. Cornerbacks, you lost Amari Jackson. I liked Amari Jackson a lot. You brought in Kevin Humes, and I think that was the only corner that they brought in. Let me just look really quick. Now, they also brought in Chandler Jordan from Georgia State, who I believe was a cornerback. But when you're looking at corners, losing Amari Jackson's pretty big. Like, I think you're going to get Humes is going to be your nickel. I'm not sure what Chandler Jordan is going to do. If he's going to, I think he's like 6'3", so maybe he's more of a safety. But that does worry me. I think they're going to rely more on the younger players there. Your Ashton Cunninghams, Marcellus Townsends, and stuff like that to fill the gaps. Not the crew. I was hoping to get more of a bigger corner there, someone that could do that. But we'll have to wait to see what Chandler Jordan does. Safety, same thing. You brought in Cam Howard from Alabama, and I think he's someone to watch. You're going to need someone next to KP Price, because you could technically put Carter Davis back at corner. I would guess they're going to put him back at safety, so you have the two of them back there. But Cam Howard can definitely do it too. So kind of I think Omar Thornton is a bigger loss there than what you're bringing in. But when you look at the defense as a whole, did they do enough to rebuild the depth? Yes. Like edge rushers, like I know there's a lot of like teeth gnashing going on right now, but I think Ballard and Jones are going to be fine. Jones could have huge upside if he plays well. You're bringing Ela Boykin. I think we started to see flashes of what he could do at the end of last season. I think this season could be I think he could be a name to watch for. The same thing with Israel DePupo. Like, he was a true freshman. I saw very limited snaps, but I know from watching him practice and things like this kid's got something. So I think they're okay there. Defensive tackle, you lost Owen Stodmeyer. In terms of portal in and out, like obviously they lost Ced McConnell and Quan Williams, but you have KJ Sampson, an older player. I think they are going to improve there. And then special teams, I love the kicker, the punter they brought in. I love him, love him, love him. I think he's going to be a huge upside and actually be an asset and a weapon for them. So at the end of the day, yes, they got deeper. There's still my concerns. I said quarterback, and they're going to have to prove that, right? They're going to have to show that they're better. Now, in our final segment, let's talk about something a little different. Well, I have two quick topics I want to talk about: Jeff Hafley and the basketball team. We'll get into both of those in just a moment. There's nothing like college football season tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. The app is so incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. I love being able to see a view from my seat before buying, so I know exactly what I was getting. I've been using it to get football tickets for my family, and I would recommend it for you as well. Now, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Wrapping things up here at Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. Thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College part of your daily routine. And if you haven't joined the Everydayers Club, details are in the show notes right below. Now, let's get into basketball because I need to give them a shout out because BC basketball did something I didn't think they were going to do this year. They won an ACC basketball game and they beat Syracuse, which is even more joyous because beating Syracuse at anything, and now it's basketball and football, is always a fun thing. And the part of this that I think is just delicious, and this has nothing of BC basketball because I know the season has been a dumpster fire, whatever. Syracuse, they get on the bubble-ish in terms of like making if they went on a run, there's a chance they could make the tournament. Now, losing a quad 3 loss to BC basically just killed them. So BC basically just killed that. Now, this also probably means that their coach is going to get fired and whatever, but this isn't just to bash Syracuse because I mean I could do that, but I want to talk a little bit more about Fred Payne. Going into the season, there were 3 names that they kept pumping, and it was Donald Hand, Jaden Hastings, and Fred Payne. I and most people thought Donald Hand was going to be the star this year. The lights got a little bright. He struggled. Again, he struggled against Syracuse. I think he went 4 for 11, like 10 points. Like he's your top guy. I'm sure he's probably getting the most NIL money. You need more from him. Fred Payne is more under the radar. He scored 26 points. And he does this every single game. This is your star right there. Fred Payne is your star. This is the guy that you want. Okay? When there's big moments and you need big shots, hey, that's great. And you know what's crazy? You know what? And I'm going to probably regret this later, is that I think it's either today or tomorrow. I lose track because honestly, who does follow BC basketball? They play Pitt. And Pitt's terrible too. There's a chance here BC could win 2 ACC games in a row. How crazy is that? So credit to them. Again, it was 8,000 people at Conti Forum, and yes, most of them were Syracuse fans. But hey, they had a packed stadium. They did it in front of Carmelo Anthony. That's always fun. Congratulations to the men's basketball team. And I will not dig on Earl Grant in this, and I will not do a coaching candidate. But does this change my thoughts that he needs to be replaced at the end of the year? Not at all. But hey, have the moment right now. And finally, I have to say that I'm surprised, but actually kind of not, that Jeff Hafley has already found himself a head coaching job. It took him 24 months. He took a gamble on himself, okay? He had an established job at BC, and by the end of the season, he had a little bit more job security. Winning that Fenway Bowl definitely helped. He quit that to take a step down to become a defense, kind of in the coaching world, right? Step down to become a defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. Kills it for the most part for 2 years. Gets himself on the the radar of every team that's hiring, and gets hired. Like, I said on Twitter he was the most sought after candidate. John Harbaugh definitely was, but he's number 2, right? Like 2 or 3. There was like 8 or 9 job openings, and he was on the list for every single interview list. So the Miami Dolphins, they go and hire him. Now, will this work? It's going to be very interesting because the parts about BC that I thought he struggled with, he may be able to mask that and still be a successful head coach. One thing that he's always great with is relating to players. We hear all about that all the time. That'll help him, right? He's going to be a guy that people like. He's going to be a guy that players want to play for. That'll be fine. The game situational stuff, we'll have to wait to see how that plays out. You know, he's obviously became a defensive coordinator. He was very successful doing that. Who he brings in for a staff, I saw someone joking that he's going to bring in Steve Shimko, Tem Lokabu or Sean Duggan, and Phil Matus as his strength and conditioning guy. Like, I would hope Hafley doesn't just retake the BC staff to Miami. There's much better candidates out there. Shimko probably should get it because Shimko's doing a hell of a job out there. Other guys, I'm not so sure about that. But I think that's a piece to watch for. He could fail. He very much could. I could see him being successful too. He's walking into a situation where he doesn't have a quarterback because Tua Tagovailoa is, out, and they're going to probably need to get a quarterback. And this is a really poor quarterback class. Maybe they go out and buy like Malik Willis or something like that, which he probably knows pretty well. But that's a big issue. But he'll have that defense probably fixed, and it's going to be, can he get that offense going? I gotta say, as a Pats fan, I can't wait for BC for the Pats to play him twice a year because I think Mike Vrabel's going to chew him up and spit him out. But hey, congratulations to him. He took a gamble on himself. It paid off. So Jeff Hafley is going to the Miami Dolphins. Thank you all for listening. My name is AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. You can check me out on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Insider. Come on over there as well. I hope to see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.